Maybe it's time to get home. Think that it's going a little too far.
Everybody, so I hope you're well and having the most incredible day. As always, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. In today's video, I thought I would sit down and share with you my 23 top reads of 2023. Originally, I was going to sit down and go through every single book I read this year, but considering I read over 100 books, can we just get a round of applause for myself? Good job, me. I thought that video would take absolutely ages, and to be honest, you can just see it on my Goodreads. It's very unnecessary. So I thought I would sit down and share with you my top 23 of 2023, and I'm very excited about it. These are going to be in no particular order. I'm going to give a brief description about each one, but I'm not going to go into too much detail, and that is what we're going to be doing. So I hope you guys enjoy this video and carry on watching. So the first book I want to talk about is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Now this kind of is a two-in-one because I also absolutely love The Housemaid's Secret, but focusing on The Housemaid, I absolutely loved this book. This thriller was incredible. When I tell you I was on the edge of my seat, I honestly couldn't put this down. I mean, I did read it for a 24-hour readathon, so like I couldn't put it down, but I read this in like 5 hours, 4 hours, something like that. I could not put this book down. It was incredibly good. The plot twists honestly had me floored every single time, and I cannot describe to you that if you want a thriller that's going to keep you on the edge of your seat, that, you know, you're just getting into reading and you want something that's really going to grip you by that first sentence, like that is the book for you. It is so good and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It was incredible. You guys need to read it. If you want a good thriller, trust me, give it a go. Next up, we have Too Late by Colleen Hoover. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I rarely suggest Coho books. I know there was a lot of issues with Colleen Hoover, but I did read Too Late because I have read pretty much all of the other books of hers, and I felt like I just wanted to read it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just wanted to give it a go. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this book was not what I expected at all. It was so unlike Colleen Hoover, and I absolutely ate it up. It was so good. It was like a dark, bad guy kind of book. Like, it wasn't what I expected at all. I don't know what I expected, but it was not that. The plot twists in this book, again, I just absolutely didn't expect them at all. And I will say the ending did go on a little bit too long for me. Like, it definitely could have been cut short sooner, but it was so good. I cannot recommend it enough. It was incredible. If you guys don't like mentions of mental and physical abuse in books, you probably won't like it because there are quite dark parts in this book. However, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. So that is another book I loved this year, not gonna lie. Was really good. Next up, we have The X Talk, and this was by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I didn't expect to like this book at all. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of read it. Going into it, I wasn't excited. I wasn't looking forward to it, but when I read this book, I fell in love with it. It was just so incredibly good. It's one of those books that's kind of like, it's a romance. It's a very light, easy read, and it was just so good. I'm not going to tell you too much about each book, like I said, but basically it's to do with a radio presenter, and her and this guy, they both kind of hosted together and pretend to be exes, and that's how they become like really well known, and they actually have never dated. So I do really recommend it. I really liked Rachel's writing as well. It was really fun and easy to get into, and yeah, I absolutely loved it in 2023. I ate that up, and it was just incredible. Next up, we have Happy Place by Emily Henry. I really enjoyed this book. I'm not gonna lie, it did shock me to see so many people not liking this book. I really enjoyed it, and I did listen to half of it, I think, on audiobook, and I thought it was really good. I just really liked it. It's basically about two characters who are technically separated, but none of their friends know they're separating, so they kind of have to like fake date their ex. It was good. I enjoyed it. I don't know why some people didn't like it. If you didn't like it, I would love to know why down below. I really enjoyed it. I liked the writing style. I do really enjoy Emily Henry's writing, and it just didn't disappoint me, so that was another favourite. Next, we have Punk 57 by Penelope Douglas. I fell in love with Penelope Douglas this year. Honestly, this book was so good. This is like spicy musician pen pal book. If that doesn't sell it, I don't know what will, but basically you've got Misha and you have got Ryan, and it is very rare for me to remember characters' names, and I read this months ago, so you guys know this is a good one. But yeah, honestly, such a good book. They basically become pen pals at school, and they just both kind of grow feelings to each other. They live like in the same town but don't know each other. and it goes from there. It's very spicy, such a good book, highly recommend. The next book is Better Than the Movies. I loved this book so much. If you want like an easy, cute rom-com book, it was just so good. And the character who you're reading of, and I cannot remember what her name is, the guy is called Win, or Wes. Not Win. Who is that? I don't even know. Basically, the girl character is very into her rom-com. So she's very into her tropes and her books and her movies, and you get loads of kind of quotes and stuff throughout the book. It was just so good. Really easy to read. I think I did a reading vlog on it actually. So if you guys haven't seen that, definitely go and check it out. It was just really fun and different and unique, and I loved it. So I have bought a few other Lynn Painter books since reading that one. I didn't say it was by Lynn Painter, did I? But it's by Lynn Painter. So good. And I cannot recommend it enough. I loved it. It was just so fun, so happy, so cheesy, and a really great book. Next, we have As Good as Dead by Holly Jackson. You guys know that A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is one of my absolute favourite books. I love that book so much that I bought the special edition recently, and I love it so much. I am tempted to do a reread, and I don't reread books very often, if ever, so I am in love with it. It was so good. And As Good as Dead was the third book, which I absolutely enjoyed. It was quite large, I'm not gonna lie, like the actual size of it really put me off, but the amount of information in that book was just a really beautiful knot on the whole series, and I loved it so much. It just really answered everything. Even questions that you have from book 1 were answered in book 3. I just love it so much. And Holly Jackson, she's making a TV series of my favourite series. I cannot believe it. I am so excited. So yeah, the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series is incredible. I highly recommend it. If you haven't read it, please do. It's incredible. So the next books are part of a series, which I know is technically cheating, but the entire Never After series by Emily McIntyre, honestly, I have ate up the whole series this year. I absolutely love them. They are basically like dark versions. They're not retellings, because every time on Instagram people kind of say that it's a retelling. She's like, no, it's not. It's kind of like books that are inspired by Disney characters, so they have the same names, and they have, like, she does reference maybe like names of places, or like relationships of certain characters are kind of the same, but the actual story is completely different. I love these so much. They are very dark, they are spicy, there's a lot of mentions of violence and stuff like that, so if you don't like that sort of thing in books, you will not like it, but I absolutely loved those books. They were all 5 stars from me. They were incredible. Just honestly read them, they were amazing. The next book is the only non-fiction book I have read this year, and that is Talking as Fast as I Can by Lauren Graham. Now, Lauren Graham is Lorelai from Gilmore Girls, if you don't know. I love Gilmore Girls so much, and I wanted to read her book because I just love her so much, and I felt like I just needed to read it and understand more about her life, and I bought it and I absolutely devoured it. It was so good. I didn't think I would love a non-fiction, but you kind of read about her life before Gilmore Girls, during, after, and then when they did like the spin-off again of Gilmore Girls, and it was just incredible. If I could give this book 10,000 stars, I would. It was just so funny, very witty, and just, you can just hear her speaking these words, and it was just hilarious. I loved it. So if you want a non-fiction, I highly recommend it. I'm getting out of breath because I'm so excited. Anyway, moving on. The next book is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. That was the first Ali Hazelwood book that I read, and I absolutely loved it. It was a 5-star read, and essentially these books by Ali Hazelwood are very similar. They don't necessarily interlink, but they're all very similar in story. They all focus on women in STEM, so women in science and that kind of vibe, and it is a romance. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. The male character, one of my favourite book boyfriends. Honestly incredible. And I think Kelsey loved it, which I feel like making her love a romance means it's incredible, because she's definitely more of like a fantasy girl. It was just amazing. Chef's kiss, so good. The next book I loved this year was Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. If you guys have not read the Dreamland Billionaire series, where have you been? I'm still yet to read book 3 because of the sheer size of it. It is very daunting, I'm not gonna lie. I do need to get and read that ASAP though, but yeah, I absolutely loved it. If you don't know what it's about, basically you have 3 brothers. Each brother has a book, and each brother also owns part of a big business, which is kind of like Disneyland, which as a Disney gal, I loved it. So pretty much each brother kind of has a job to do to get their portion of the inheritance of the company. So for example, one brother has to marry and have a baby, the other brother has to create a whole new thing for the company and like make loads of money. Anyway, it's just so good. I thoroughly enjoy them. They are spicy, they are very quick, I just thoroughly enjoy them, and I just love Lauren Asher's writing so much. So yeah, if you guys want a really fun, spicy romance, highly recommend. Sticking with Lauren Asher, I'm gonna have to mention a series, and I know it's kind of cheating, but like, this is my video, so we're just gonna go with it, and this is the Dirty Air series. The Dirty Air series is essentially 4 books, all based on different characters, and all of these characters have some relation to Formula One, and then it kind of has like 2 POVs, so each book is a couple. They are all incredible. Book 4 had me crying my eyes out, and also I noticed that each book did have some sort of really traumatic part happening in it, but book 4 just hit me like no other. It was just so good, so emotional. That whole series is just incredible. I do highly recommend them. I actually know some people don't like these books, which I find very hard to understand because of how much I loved them. Obviously everyone is down to their own opinion and they kind of have their own thoughts or whatever, but I just love these so much. If you guys like Formula One, you like a spicy romance, you will love these books. I am going to mention another Colleen Hoover book, but that is Heartbones. I loved this book so much. I had no idea what it was about going into it, and I was so incredibly surprised, and I absolutely loved it. It was so emotional and just so incredible. I loved both the characters. The outcome at the end was just insane, and I think I actually would read this book again. Like, I just really enjoyed it. I'm not going to tell you what it's about. Go into it blind and you will absolutely love it. It was just so good. The next book is, of course, A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm not going to tell you anything about what this book is about because you need to read ACOTAR. Honestly, as somebody who is not a big fantasy girly, don't get me wrong, I love a good fantasy romance. I have got quite a few fantasy books to read, but as someone who is definitely more of a romance reader over a fantasy kind of book situation, I absolutely love this series. I have one more book to read, and it is the biggest one of all, and I will get to it eventually. But this book, so good. Essentially, it's to do with fae. So you have like fairies, you've got wolves, you've got like paranormal vibes, you've got different worlds. It's very hard to, I find it very hard to kind of envision it sometimes. However, the actual explanations of the kind of world building, very easy to understand. And there are audiobooks as well if you find that easier to read along and listen. Sometimes I do, especially if it's like a big book. It was just incredible. So I absolutely loved A Court of Mist and Fury. It was just amazing. Obviously, I have to mention A Court of Wings and Ruin as well. I absolutely loved this book. Now, I can't decide whether book 2 or book 3 was my favourite. I absolutely loved book 2 for the romance and for all the feelings, but book 3, the amount of action in that book, as in not spicy action, but war action, was just incredible. And I feel like everything was going on and it was just shocking me, but also I just couldn't stop reading it. Again, it was a massive book. I did download it on my Kindle and I paid £5 for it, but I just couldn't bring myself to carry around like a massive book. It was insane. I absolutely loved it. I would highly recommend the ACOTAR series if you want to get into fantasy. Highly recommend. The next book is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I feel like I didn't want to include every single Taylor Jenkins Reid book in this video. I think that one was my favourite, I want to say. I really enjoyed One True Loves. I thought it was such a beautiful book, and they are making it into a film, which is very exciting. However, I did not envision the characters looking how they do in the movie, and I feel like it's going to ruin it for me. So essentially what this book is about is you've got a woman who is married and her husband goes missing. I think it's the day before their anniversary, their first anniversary, and then a while goes by and she ends up getting engaged to somebody else, and then her actual husband calls her and says like, I'm alive, I'm home. And it's this whole kind of mess of who does she want to be with. Does she want to be with her husband, who she's known for years, or does she want to be with this guy who she's known since she was a kid but lost contact with and now has fallen in love with? Like, it's a very, you just don't know who she's gonna choose, and I'm really happy with the outcome at the end. I think it was really perfect and it was just so good. So if you want to read something like that, insanely good. The writing was perfect and the ending was just amazing. The next book is Gothicana by Runix. I think that's how you pronounce the author's name, and I loved this book so much. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did because it is a very gothic, obviously, like romance. So is it even a romance? I don't even think it's a romance. It's like a mystery romance, paranormal vibe. It was just so good, and I can't even describe to you what happens without giving anything away, but there is a character who goes to this big like school, and it's all very gothic-y and very very paranormal-esque and lots of things are happening, and it is just really good. I do recommend it. There is a special edition coming out and I really, really want to get my hands on it because it looks so beautiful. Yeah, you know I love a book that much when I have 2 copies of it, so yeah, I really want to get that. But it was so good if you're into like a gothic style, paranormal, spicy book. Incredible. The next book is Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I also absolutely adored When in Rome, but I think I preferred Practice Makes Perfect out of the 2. I loved them both, but this book was just so good. I love both characters and I just fell in love with them. So you have Annie, and I think his name is Will. Will is a bodyguard who looks after Annie's brother's girlfriend. She's famous, and then Will and Annie kind of have a relationship. He's very, like, what's the word? Grumpy. Couldn't think of the word. He's a grumpy, she is most definitely sunshine, and I just love their banter. I love their relationship. I love the way that he obviously like cares about Annie so much but doesn't like to show it, and I just enjoyed it thoroughly. If you want something like that, very good book. I absolutely love Sarah Adams's writing. I think When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect were both incredible books. So yeah, if you want a really fun, happy, easy read, highly recommend. Then we have Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I absolutely have fallen in love with this series. I have only read the first book. I do have the other 2 and I am very excited to read them next year, but I loved this book so much. The found family, the romance, the banter, the emotions, like it had everything that I love in a book, and it was just incredible. I'm not gonna lie, it was like 500 pages long, which for some people might seem like a lot for your sort of standard romance, but there was so much going on that it kind of needed to be that long, otherwise things would have just got washed over. It was just so good. It was so good. I highly recommend that book, and I think it's one of my favorite romances this year. Like, I think it was definitely up there. If I could have given it a 6 star, I definitely would, but honestly, I just feel like I keep saying I can't recommend it enough, but this book was just it for me. It was so good. So the next 3 books are all kind of interlinked. So you have Good Girl Complex, Bad Girl Reputation, and The Summer Girl, and I absolutely love these. These are by Elle Kennedy. This whole world is just one of my favorites. I would happily read these again. I think every single couple in these books are just so well matched, and it just made me so happy reading them, and I absolutely love it because you've got like spice, you've got romance, you've got plot twists, you have got emotions, you have got found family, you've got family drama, you've got everything in these books, and I love them so much. So if you haven't read them, highly recommend them. Maybe save them for summer. They're definitely summer vibes. I absolutely love these books. I really want to get into reading more Elle Kennedy now because I'm just in love with them. But yeah, those 3 books as well, definite favourites of 2023. And last but definitely not least, we have Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I actually saw Sarah Caroli mention this book so many times, and I was like, do you know what? Just buy the book. So I bought it, I binged it, and it was absolutely incredible. It was a very fun book to read, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was kind of, there was a lot of kind of back and forth in timeline, which I love because I find it so fun, and you kind of get a more fuller view of what happened. And it's basically about 2 characters who used to know each other at college. They drift apart and you don't sort of know why, and then all of a sudden they try and get back together, and it was just so good. Like, I really enjoyed it. It was very different for me, and I think I read it a good few months ago now, but it was just so fun, and you get so much of their story that I just felt like I felt like I knew them really well. So yeah, that book was an amazing book as well. Definite 10 out of 10, loved it. So those are my top 23 books of 2023. I told you guys this was going to be a long video, so that is why I didn't want to talk about over 100 books because it would be an hour long, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video anyway. Obviously, as always, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, because I would absolutely love for you to join my corner of the internet and hopefully reach 11,000 subscribers. So thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next one. Bye guys.
Maybe it's time to get home. Think that